I don't know which side we should take of this. Let's take earnings first, because I think there's a big question as to what they're going to look like. And frankly, whether they're sustainable, meaning there's been a lot of growth in these companies, at least during of the stock price during this period, and whether you think that looks sustainable to you.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's going to be a busy week. I mean, I think that you're going to continue to see Amazon and Netflix fly, right? I mean, for fairly obvious reasons, these companies were benefited pretty tremendously by the situation that we're in. Google's obviously priced a little bit more cautiously, given some of the news that has come out over the past few months. But in terms of sustainability, even things like Netflix, I mean, that subscriber growth can't be sustainable, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to perform extremely well. I think most things that people have thought coming into all of this a few quarters ago have generally been wrong, and these stocks have continued to do extremely well.
The other question revolves really, and we'll see it with Google later this week, but with Google and the lawsuit that the Department of Justice has brought against them, and what the implications are for Apple in terms of services revenue, in large part because Google is paying Apple billions of dollars annually for that default search right. Effectively, when you go on an Apple device, an iPhone, the default search is Google, and whether you think that gets taken away, what that means obviously for an Alphabet on one side in terms of the traffic and all the revenue that generates, and on the other side, the revenue that it also generates for an Apple.
Yeah, it's funny. It just harkens back 20 years when we were having similar conversations. But I think that obviously it depends. It's going to be a big part of what they talk about and how they discuss this lawsuit, because they are paying that. I think you could see a scenario where instead the consumer gets a choice box. And frankly, the Google product is good. A lot of people are still going to pick Google. So, we'll see how that goes. I think, yeah, there is the possibility that that goes away. And I'm not sure that tanks in any way Google's traffic, given that it is, except for a handful of categories that are fairly overrun by SEO. Google overall is still a great experience for the user, and I think you'll end up seeing a lot of consumers pick it. Will that hit Apple in the short term? Of course.
I want to bring in another voice to this conversation, Ellie, right now to discuss the battle between the DOJ and big tech, which is Adam Singola. He's the CEO of content discovery and native advertising platform Taboola. It's great to see you, Adam. Help us, though, understand, you're watching this whole thing play out. Do you think that if Apple was not paying, for example, for Google to be the default search engine and somehow installed Bing instead, if that's what you think would happen, that users would still migrate to Google, or they wouldn't?
I'm not sure most people are truly aware of what's the default. So I think that, being a default is a very important point of contact and canvas for whoever gets it.
So, but let me ask you about that, because I, for example, am a Google Maps guy. I've always liked Google Maps more than I like Apple Maps. As you know, Apple Maps is pre-installed on the iPhone. I have installed Google Maps. I actually think if you look at the numbers, there is a remarkable number of people who have installed Google Maps and use that instead of Apple Maps. So does it really matter?
Well, I think it matters. You're right, though, when it comes to a consumer app like Waze or Google Maps or things of that nature, people get emotionally connected. When it comes to default experiences such as type in something in your browser, just go to a search page, sometimes even feeling lucky and go straight to the page, I feel like most people are not necessarily aware of what experience is behind that browser. If you ask my mom, does she know if the default browser on her iPhone is Google or not, I don't think she would know the difference. So I do think that whoever gets that default, it's a big premium on getting access to consumers, and it's a big win for whoever gets it. I don't think we'll see the same experience as we do with Google Maps or Waze or things of that nature.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.